Hey, everybody, and welcome to another midweek Bible study here with the West Main Church of Christ. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, we're going to start this video off with our fun thought of the week. Now, I don't know if you know this or not, but there is some sort of weird long explanation for this scientific phenomenon that when you see something, an image of something that is closely associated with a memory that you have, you can actually trigger some of your other senses without actually smelling or seeing or tasting something, right? Okay, so what this means is if you see a picture that you've associated with your childhood or specific memory, you can actually smell that picture without actually smelling it. Sound complicated enough, right? But I wanted to try this out with you guys tonight. So I'm going to show you all 5 pictures that I think you might actually be able to smell just through your computer screen. All right, so here we go. Number 1, this is a picture of scented expo markers, right? We were always told don't sniff markers, but then they made scented markers, and it was really cool and fun for a while, and we always had that one favorite marker that we like to smell, or maybe that was just me. Maybe that's why, we've got a generation of people that are just kind of weird, right? All right, so that's number 1. Number 2, I want to see if anybody can smell this. One of my favorite smells in the world. I'm going to show a picture of Subway. The inside of a Subway restaurant, where you walk in, you can smell the bread and it just smells nice and kind of homey. So can you smell that? I'm just really curious about this. This is something I've never tried before. So I do, be sure to give me your feedback about this. All right, so that was number 2, is a Subway restaurant. Number 3, this one's going to get kind of finicky, and maybe you may or may not be able to do this, but this is going to be a barn, specifically a pig barn. I raised hogs growing up, and so I can smell that particular smell just by looking at the picture. I know what that smells like. If you aren't associated with farming in any way, form, or fashion, maybe you missed that one, maybe you don't. So there you go. There's a pig barn. Number 4, we got 2 more. Number 4, how about an old bowling alley or skating rink? I know some of my parents may be able to still smell what this smells like when you walk in, the disinfectant spray, the stale popcorn, nachos. There's that tiny hint of BO in the back of your mind, right? Because everybody gets really sweaty at the skating rink. All right, and then number 5, how about the beach? I love the smell of the beach. I love the beach in general, but the smell of the beach, you can smell the ocean, you can smell that fresh air, and it's just all kind of nice and awesome. So there you go. Those are 5 images that maybe you were able to actually smell. Maybe you weren't. Let me know down in the comments on Facebook if you were. That was just something kind of fun to try. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching this video with me. I really appreciate it. This week we're actually starting a brand new series, and this series is going to be called The Church Moving Forward. And I'm not going to specifically talk about moving forward past the coronavirus, although that'll be part of the focus as well, but specifically how we're going to move forward just in general. The church has to be able to move through adversity, through culture, through time, and just like everything else, it changes. But there are things that we have to do in order to make sure that the church continues to move forward, because after all, there's countless expressions out there about if you're not moving forward, then you're moving backwards. And we don't want to do that. We want the church to continue to be positive and a light in a world of darkness, moving forward from all sorts of perspectives. And so if we want to do that, we're going to start this week with the church moving forward. If we want to truly do that, there are gaps that we have to bridge. And we're going to talk tonight about 2 of those gaps that we have to bridge if the church wants to move forward successfully. So number 1, the church has to bridge the gap of opinion. Even if you were living under a rock, I would bet you would notice that in today's world, everybody has an opinion. And more so than that, everybody has an opinion that they demand that you agree with. Because having an opinion in and of itself, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. The problem comes when we can't agree or disagree, and there has to be a right or a wrong. I saw something on Facebook today that talked about how it's okay not to be a binary thinker, which means that there are more than 2 ways of looking at any particular topic. And so when that comes about, how do we respond? Do we say that you have to agree with what my opinion is, or you're wrong? Or do we move forward? Somewhere along the line, we've created this gap that everybody with an opinion on one side was right and everybody on the opinion of the other side was wrong, and we didn't want to talk about that space in the middle. And it's okay to live with different opinions so long as God's word is not compromised. Romans chapter 14 and verse 1 says, "As for the one who is weak in faith, welcome him, but do not quarrel over opinions." And Proverbs chapter 18 and verse 2 says that a fool takes no pleasure in understanding, but only expressing his opinions. You see, we have to remember, if we're going to move forward through a time of crazy uncertainty and a time where everybody seems to be more content being angry at each other than trying to make peace, opinions are just that. They're opinions. In the grand scheme of things, it really doesn't matter what color the carpet is or if the person worshiping next to you has a tattoo from when they were 17. We live in a time where we expect that everyone needs to or wants to hear our opinions. But at that point, you have to think about Galatians chapter 1 and verse 10. It says, "For am I seeking the approval of man or of God? Or am I trying to please man? If I were trying to please man, I would not be a servant of Christ's." As long as God's word is being upheld correctly, why get so torn up about all the other opinions? You and I can live and love and respect each other despite the fact that we may not see eye to eye on every political or social topic out there. And that's okay. But there's a gap there. And if the church wants to move forward, we have to understand that there is a difference between condoning and respecting. That there's a difference between agreeing to disagree and still doing so in love, and not saying, look, because you think this, it means that you must think I'm whatever. We've gotten so far away from you express your opinion, I'll express my opinion, and let's try to find some common ground to, well, if you don't agree with me, you're obviously just ignorant or uneducated, or you just don't like who I am as a person. And that could not be further from the truth in 99 out of 100 cases. So if the church wants to move forward, we have to be able to bridge the gap of opinions. And number two, if the church wants to move forward, we have to be able to bridge the gap of age. Now, I'm hoping tonight that those of you that are watching have a very, very large age range, right? Maybe you're 6, 7, 8 years old. Maybe you're 56, 7, 8 years old. When you look at the makeup of the church, it's actually pretty incredible. You have so many members from different ethnicities, different backgrounds, different social, economic makeups, different ages. And no other organization in the world relies on both 14-year-olds and 64-year-olds. And that's pretty awesome. But there seems to be a gap that, for some reason or another, we struggle to bridge. And I've had this conversation with multiple members over the last week or so, and it seems really interesting to me how much of a disconnect there is between the younger generation and the older. And for better or for worse, this is my observation. When you look at the older generation and you see this generation looking down at the younger, they see everything that is about to ruin the church. And when you have the younger generation looking up at the older, they see everything that they don't like about the church. And so where did that gap come from, and how do we fill it? Titus chapter 2 verses 1 through 10 discusses all of the responsibilities that we have to each other. The respect that younger members are to have for the older, because remember, the older members have been here longer. They've put in more work. They deserve the respect, because the church wouldn't be where it is today without the hard work and dedication of those older members. But at the same time, older members have the responsibility to teach those that are younger, to be an example. Titus chapter 2 verses 1 through 10 specifically talks about being self-controlled, not quarreling. And I don't know about you all, but we just got done talking about opinions, and sometimes when you watch how older members react to certain topics, it's not always something that is attractive to those that are younger. So remember that both sides have a responsibility and a courtesy that they are to give to others, because after all, we are all still members of the church. It seems like that particular gap becomes harder and harder to bridge the more that we go on. But if the church really does want to move forward, we have to acknowledge that there is some sort of divide there between the younger and the older. But what's amazing about this gap is it's so potentially easy to bridge. And what's even more amazing is you don't have to wait for a specific program to be put into place or an event to be planned in order to reach out and try to make a difference with somebody from another generation within the church. Younger people, send cards. Take somebody lunch, sit on their front porch, ask them questions, and listen to the answers. Older people, be patient with the younger. They do really want to learn. And although they may not want to show it, a lot of times they do appreciate the effort that you spend in investing in their life. So the church has gaps. There's absolutely no denying that. Any society, any organization is going to have gaps. And if the church wants to move forward, it is our responsibility to make sure that we do our absolute best to bridge those gaps, so that we look at the church 10 years from now and say it is better than it was 10 years ago. Thank you guys so much for paying attention to this lesson. I apologize for the little interruption there right in the middle of the video, but it'll be okay, I promise. I do have just a few announcements. As always, be sure to pay attention to Facebook about whether or not we're going to be able to be outside this Wednesday evening. That's still always because of the weather up in the air, so be sure to pay attention. We'll do our best to make that call as soon as we possibly can. Please pay attention to the sick list. Those in our West Main family, there have been multiple updates to that since Sunday. I believe it's Mike Webster and Carla Parham and Andrew Sweeney all have members of their family that they're dealing with loss or sickness. Okay, so please be sure to stay connected to that. Obviously, we want you to continue to stay connected and to please be sure to reach out to each other. Now more than ever, communication is such a big deal. We do not want to get caught in this idea of being frustrated because, well, so-and-so hasn't called me or nobody's checked up on me and they obviously just don't care. That's not the case. We love you so much. We don't want anybody to fall through the cracks. As always, if you need anything, please contact myself, Carrie, one of our deacons, the office, and if you have a need, we will do our absolute best to get that worked out for you. We continue to encourage everybody to stay connected online, to be a part of our Sunday night and Wednesday night services, whether that is in person or tuning in on Facebook Live. Seeing everybody on Sunday mornings has been great, and we want to continue to make progress, move forward through what is an uncertain time, relying on God and understanding that He is going to take care of us through this, not allowing fear to dictate where we go from here. So as always, I want you to know that I love you, and I can't wait to see you again. Thanks so much.